not a liberal. I don't have that in my DNA. But, yeah, that has nothing to do with changing the name of a team, Floyd. But maybe they should change Washington to the Washington Floyd, the Washington Libtards.
I hear a lot of people saying they ought to change the name to the Washington Snowflakes. But let's get Mike into this conversation. Mike describes himself as a radical African-American. He wants to address the challenge, and I'm grateful he did. Mike, thank you very much for calling. How are you?
Fine, and yourself?
I'm doing great, sir. I appreciate you joining. Are you on speaker, Mike?
Yes, I may be, yeah.
Yeah, do you mind picking up a little bit, because it's hard to hear you because of the echo? If it's possible to talk into the mouthpiece, that'd be a little bit easier for us to hear you. Yeah, a little bit better. All right.
Okay.
So help me out. Tell me what George Floyd's horrific killing, which it feels to me like the nation was pretty unified over the anguish that we felt over watching the life drain from this guy under the knee of this cop in Minneapolis. What's that got to do with changing the name of the Washington Reds football team? Washington Redskins.
Well, you got to understand, Mike, and I'm another Mike. You hear me?
Okay. Yes, sir. I sure
Yes. Is that those are symbolic gestures that aren't fundamental changes. They don't represent fundamental changes, but they do two things. First of all, they point to the need to examine the white nationalist origins of this country. And secondly, they point to the need to look at the very legitimacy of the state itself. This is an illegitimate government.
The government's illegitimate, and so changing the Washington Redskins name will restore it to some legitimacy?
No, it's just a symbolic gesture that introduces that idea. Many people know, you can ask the Native Americans, there was no right that the colonists had to establish a government on their territory.
Right, but why do you as a black man feel emboldened to embrace the cause of Native Americans?
Because our causes are similar. I mean, whereas they suffered genocide and colonization and land theft, we were brought here as slave laborers.
Right.
We've always felt an affinity for our indigenous brothers and sisters. Even though our histories aren't identical, but they are very similar in the sense that we were enslaved, and our enslavement was based on the displacement of the original peoples to set up this illegitimate state on a capitalist basis.
So if you're listening to the show, you're aware of a lot of the breaking news, and you're aware of the surging, spiking crime in cities like Chicago and LA and Atlanta and especially in New York. There were 15 shootings last night. Over the weekend, a 1-year-old boy was shot and killed. And I want to play for you because I'd love your reaction to this, Mike, because obviously you're a very wise man and very eloquent in the way you're describing some of the racial tensions that we're facing in America. So here's the mother of a little boy, a boy that just a beautiful child, Devell Gardner, and was shot dead in a drive-by shooting when he was at a barbecue. Here's what his the father and grandmother of this little boy had to say about Black Lives Matter and what happened to their, and this is an African-American family, this little child shot and killed. Listen to this, Mike.
He took my son's life. I can't get that back. I can't hold him no more. I can't hear him calling me daddy no more. I can't kiss him no more. I can't play with him no more. I can't do nothing with him no more. Like, I gotta put my son in the ground now. And he's only 1. His birthday 2 months. In 2 months, he didn't live to see 2. Like, he didn't live life. And it's like I wanted to get him out this violence before something like this happened.
For the cowards that did this, you should be ashamed of yourself, because everybody talk about Black Lives Matter. What about baby lives?
How about that, Mike? What about babies' lives?
Well, all lives should matter. I mean,
wait a minute. Mike, you can't say that. You know better.
That's what I just said it. I'm an independent thinker. All lives should matter, but we know historically certain lives have not mattered as much as some others. Now, as far as that tragedy, I mean, that's very bad. I mean, any conscientious person cannot condone reckless murder like that.
Right, but Mike, you can appreciate the people like me who see this and see this heartbreaking mother say, well, they talk about Black Lives Matter. What about my baby? And I'm wondering, what in the world does the name change of the Washington Redskins NFL franchise, or even painting the mural Black Lives Matter on Fifth Avenue in front of Trump Tower, what does that do? What does that do for little DeVell Gardner and his family?
It does nothing. But as I said, Mike, as I said, all of that, the Black Lives Matter paintings and, the Christopher Columbus statues and other slave owners being torn down, those are symbolic gestures that raise the question of white supremacy and nationalism and the legitimacy or illegitimacy of the state.
How about symbols of the real radical Marxist tendencies of the Black Lives Matter organizational leadership? The ones who've been on TV recently saying things like, we literally want no police anymore. We want the police abolished altogether. And indeed, if we don't get what we want, we're going to burn it all down. Should there be symbols that kind of represent that kind of rhetoric too, Mike?
Well, I mean, the African American community, just like any community, is not monolithic. I mean, even within the Black Lives Matter movement, which is part of a broader movement called the Movement for Black Lives.
Sure.
I mean, you have differences of opinion. There are people in the Black Lives movement who are liberals. There are people like myself who are communists, and everything in between.
Oh, you're a communist.
Yes, unequivocally.
Wow. We hit pay dirt with you today, Mike. All right.
Yes,
I've never given a communist a free My Pillow. I hope I can get permission to do it, but I'll bend the rules, and I'm going to send you a free My Pillow for calling in. I hope you don't mind, and just hope you don't burn it in a protest or anything. But Mike, thank you for your input. Line 2, guys. Let's get Mike a My Pillow. Mike, the radical communist African American caller to the Mike Gallagher Show. Hey, every day's a little bit different. Welcome in, 800-655-Mike.